Well, hello there, friends. People in New Orleans, that you're not going through the winter we're going through, but this country's been hit in places that, we've got friends who are close to Florida. Actually, I was told in Gainesville, Florida, by a friend, it was snowing. So I guess not even Florida is immune. I'm guessing California is not seeing the white stuff, but
no.
All the rest of us are enjoying it. February 1st, we made it through January. Winter is almost over. Well, we're getting there. It's the 32nd day of this, your best year yet. You have 333 days remaining. Isn't that nice? 3, it's a magic number. I think that was Schoolhouse Rock, Math Rock.
It's Schoolhouse Rock, yeah.
Yeah, which is good, because I noticed the URL for our video today has 666. Well, the sixes aren't all together, but we get our fair share of 666s, too. I like 668, the neighbor of the beast. Also, you have 327 days until Christmas. So there's your salvation there. 272 days until Halloween.
Sounds right.
Time to start buying that Halloween candy. Well, I guess Valentine's candy. Buy enough Valentine's candy that you'll have some left over in October.
You know, it has to be said that Valentine's Day can be a second Halloween if you so choose. You have that option.
It's crazy. You go to the department stores or any stores, and they have Valentine's candy. I mean, of course, they've always had Valentine's hearts and conversation hearts, but no, now they've got everything you have for Halloween, bags and bags to just lay out every time you have company over or when you don't have company over. So control yourselves, you good people, and manage your cards. Where was I? Oh, yeah, spring and autumn. Well, up here, north of the equator, spring is in 47 days. And those of you south of the equator, our friends down under, are enjoying your summer, but autumn is coming in the same 47 days. And finally, just 1,084 days until January 1st, 2029.
Wait, how many?
Yeah, I know. It's still over 1,000, but we're getting there. 1,084 days. Now, those of you who are not in the United States and you are not dealing with El Presidente Los Apprentice, maybe you're not as eager to get to January 21st, 2029 as some of us are, but I think it's affecting the whole world. So I'm guessing everybody's enjoying that countdown. I certainly am looking for it. Just reminds me that whatever we're going through, this too shall pass.
Eventually, yes.
Eventually. Yeah.
I'm hoping that it will all go out with a bang before 2029.
I'm hoping there won't be any more bangs. I'm hoping for things to be on the down low, low key, mellow, but of course that's a wish in the bad sense of unrealistic. Either way, we are, and this I do know is true, we are stronger than anything that is going to happen to us. If you're watching this show, I'll tell you one thing that I know. If you're listening, even if you're listening afterward, here's what I know. I know something about you. I know something about you.
Oh.
What I know about you is...
But are you the NSA?
Better than that. Because what I know about you is you're still above ground. You're still alive. You've made it this far. And if you've made it this far, you are strong enough to make it to January 21st, 2029.
And if you're listening to us, that says a whole lot about your very high level of intelligence and your ability to value. So
it really does. Now, I don't mean to minimize the things that are going on. Some of us, well, probably not us, but some folks are not going to make it. But you will. I am counting on that. All the evidence is in your favor. And other than the political scene right these days, everything is getting better all the time. It's amazing how politics is the one area in which it's hard to be optimistic. It's not impossible, but it's hard. So let's go right to on this date, because it is February 1st. We're done with January. On February 1st, 1884, the debut of the Oxford Dictionary.
Ooh.
Yes, ultimately the Oxford English Dictionary, the OED, the OG of dictionaries.
Wait,
the
what was
old
the
guard.
date? What was the date on that?
This day in 1884.
Oh, okay.
Looks like you've got a book there that's almost that old there.
Yeah, something I'll be sharing with later.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Amy's going to share a very old book, too, and in a condition that looks like it might have been there around the time that the OED premiered the Volume 1 A to ANT, A to Ant. We mentioned the film Ants last week, so there's a coincidence for you there. Question for y'all. Oxford English Dictionary, for a while it was available online, even though if you want to buy it, it's huge. You can get a single volume version, but it's like microfiche. You need a magnifying glass to read it. And for a while it was available online, and then the OED, they changed it. And what they did is they put up something called Oxford Dictionaries, which was an abbreviated OED, because it costs money to look at the full version of the Oxford English Dictionary. Well, recently, I guess it's been a year or two now, they took that down too. So my question for you is, do you have a preferred online dictionary?
Well, it's really interesting. I'd like to look at the history of that with regard to the Oxford English Dictionary. You said 1880 something?
1884 was the...
And Noah Webster came out with his first American dictionary of the English language in 1828.
Yeah, well, here...
So I wonder what's going on there.
Yeah, he beat them to it.
Good.
1828 for Webster's. And for some of you, Webster's may still be your very first. Can Robert predate, as in, on this day tomorrow, just for today, 2/1/26? Gary, thank you for asking that in the chat, because that's exactly what I'm going to do.
Yes.
But let me first finish with February 1st before I get to February 2nd, which, I think we care even more about. This was the date of the first session of the U.S. Supreme Court. And it was not in Washington, D.C. A lot of government things didn't used to happen in Washington, D.C. No, the Royal Exchange Building on New York City's Broad Street, now Broadway, the Supreme Court of the United States meets for the first time with Chief Justice John Jay of New York presiding. We still have a tripartite government in the United States. Some of you might not have great faith in this, but it is true. And our Congress critters might seem like they're running around like critters in a cage or a maze, but the United States Supreme Court still exists, and we honor that fact today on February 1st, going back to 1790. I'm counting on the Supreme Court. They've been good on a few things. I'm counting on them knocking a few other things down. It is still powerful stuff. Oh, Tom Harrison says, I absolutely love the Ayn Rand lexicon. Speaking of dictionaries, absolutely. I will be pulling an item from the Ayn Rand lexicon, actually, before I'm done here. I've got a quote from Ayn Rand's essay, The Conflicts, quote-unquote conflicts, it's in quotation marks, The Conflicts of Men's Interests, which was also reprinted in The Virtue of Selfishness. And I've got a quote from that I took from the lexicon, so thank you for bringing that up. And I'm going to compare that to a quote from Robert Heinlein, because Valentine's Day is coming up. But before I get to that, it is also National Freedom Day, the day honoring the signing by President Abraham Lincoln of the joint House and Senate resolution that was later ratified as the 13th Amendment to the United States, abolishing slavery. So it is Freedom Day. That also makes it Black History Month. That's controversial, especially in objectivist circles. Should we have a month honoring a particular race? Isn't that kind of racist? Can you imagine if we had a White History Month? To which the obvious retort is every month is White History Month. There's no problem getting white historical figures out there. The question is, do people know anything about Frederick Douglass? Do they know anything about the great African Americans who, because of racism, didn't get all the credit they deserve? I don't know. I think there may be a place for that. I don't know that it should be a national holiday. I don't know the government should have anything to do with anything like that, but I at least have room for studying the overlooked great Black Americans.
Absolutely. I love Black History Month, and I have so many favorites, including oh, here she is. My first hero in the world, Debbie Allen.
Yes, well, fortunately, she was famous at a time when racism was on the decline.
Well, she had to.
But she had her obstacles too.
She had a lot of obstacles with regard. She wanted to be a ballerina, and since she was built differently, she was rejected. She had to go elsewhere to get that training, and then she came back, and thanks to her mother, it's amazing. Anyway. Yeah. Great story there.
I love the fact that we can say, oh, why do we care about racism? It's not a thing anymore. I love that fact. I also disagree with it. So both sides, it's all good. And to me, ultimately, all I want from race, from the fact of race, I disagree with Yaron when he says race isn't a thing, but all I want from race is to celebrate variety the same way that we do with food. And we don't say, well, Thai food is evil. Well, some people might say that. But no, we love variety in food. We love variety in music. We should love variety in people.
Yes. So, in all the ways, even the smaller ways.
Yes. We've had some good conversations, actually, when we were talking about Pride Month, which is even more fraught with problems. And yet, there were things I could say about that, too, that might surprise some of our listeners. But we'll wait. We will wait for that month. And instead, we will be happy that on this date, slavery was abolished. Well, the papers were signed that was later ratified by the states. Yes. It is, what else we got on February 1st? Oh, there's only one more for February 1st. I swear I've mentioned this before, maybe on a previous February 1st. It is Pork Rind Appreciation Day. And I swear, growing up as a kid, I never knew what pork rinds were. And we ate them, we bought them, and we enjoyed them. And the strange thing about pork rinds is if you don't know what they are, you would never in a million years guess what they are. And yet they are exactly what the words describe. Except you never think of a rind as being a skin of an animal. You think of an orange rind.
Orange or lemon rind.
Lemon rind.
But
from which you can make
rind,
lemon zest. Yeah.
Yeah, lemon zest. That's really good. But yeah, no, I used to love pork rinds. Then I learned what they were, and then I stopped eating them. And yeah, I don't know if I'll ever go back. I don't know. It's weird. I used to really love them so much, and I also used to eat frog legs when I was a kid.
It's funny because there are certain foods where if you grew up all your life knowing what they are, you don't think twice. Yeah, I know what pork rinds are. Of course I do. And it's only weird if you didn't know what they were and then later found out.
Yeah, well, that was also mushrooms as well. And when
Really?
I learned that it was fungus, I'm like, fungus and mold, that's disgusting. That's what you spray Lysol onto. I don't want to eat that. So I stopped eating mushrooms, and then I picked that back. I picked that one back up. Not frog legs or pork rinds just yet. So we'll see.
We will see how that goes. Well, next time I buy pork rinds, which occasionally I have bought, probably been a few years, but still, we'll see if we can get you back into that. And that's it for February. I don't know why today is Pork Rind Appreciation Day.
I'm sure there's a pork rind lobby.
Yeah, I'm sure they need all the help they can get.
Especially when it's barbecue flavored pork rinds. So delicious.
Well, yeah, you got to add whatever you can. Well, enough salt and you can get away with anything. Okay, before I get to the rest of On This Date, but tomorrow... Oh, by the way, tomorrow is Groundhog Day. Okay, and let me just catch up with the chat. Have I been missing out here?
Oh, yeah, just some fun stuff.
Yeah, I love people in our chat. I love our people.
Yeah.
We really have the best.
Great t-shirt, Amy. Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah.
And this is a beautiful t-shirt. It's
Well,
so beautiful. My
I
gosh.
guess that means that we can jump right to tomorrow because we're not going to be live tomorrow. And tomorrow's a big, 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 big day.
Big day.
Those of you who heard Yaron Brooke earlier, yeah, I know we overlapped with him, but hey, I scheduled our show first, and we're always Sundays at 6 p.m. Eastern. He should know better. Anyway, he was done with his content and was doing Q&A by the time we started. But if you've been listening to him, you know he's at the Randsday conference, and you might be wondering, wait a minute, Robert, Amy, Globetrotters, travelers, you go everywhere. Why aren't you in Florida at the Randsday conference?
Oh, so many reasons, but
and the answer is that you're right. We have all the time in the world and all the money you could possibly need. We could have taken our private jet down there, but no, we thought it would be better to celebrate this important day at the home of our values,
yes.
which is our home. So.
Yes. Well, and I gotta say, I would love to be there. I would love to be hanging out down there. Although it's not very warm right now, but we have family down there. We, lots of wonderful places to visit, and a lot of good people. So if anyone's down there and listening to us from there, we wish that we were there with you. So, although it's nice to be home right now. Yeah.
Yes, the Ayn Rand Institute just had a episode of their, I think it was under New Ideal, but whichever one of their programs or podcasts that they do, Ben Baer was talking to, and now I forget who it was he was talking to, and I don't want to not give him credit there, but they were talking about altruism. They were talking about sacrifice and whether sacrifice is a good thing, a bad thing, how should we think about it, how did Ayn Rand think about it? Well, tomorrow is Rand's Day. Mm-hmm. Tomorrow is Ayn Rand's birthday. And some of you may not know yet, well, what is Rand's Day? Rand's Day is Ayn Rand's birthday, but Harry Binswanger in particular has been on a quest to make it a recognized national holiday. And if we can't do it with the government, such as they have with Black History Month, and if anybody's birthday deserves to be commemorated, it is the great American Ayn Rand, then we're going to do it by word of mouth. We're just going to make it a de facto holiday. Kind of like Swedish Day, invented by the greeting card makers, and it's great. It's a great holiday. I like it. But Rand's Day, Rand's birthday, and the premise behind Rand's Day, the way to celebrate Rand's Day, is to buy yourself a present. Mm-hmm. Now, you might think, isn't that just like my birthday? Well, but who really buys himself? Some of us do sometimes if you needed an excuse, but who really buys himself a present for their birthday every year? No, Rand's Day is a day to celebrate your own fine self. Yeah, Tom says Ben Baer is freaking amazing. Ben is one of our favorites. He made our list of top 3 talks at the last OCon. He's an all-around good guy. He's one of those objectivists you look at, or if you get to meet him in person, and say, wow, he gets it. In the sense that you look at him and you say, I want to be more like that. Whatever he's got, I want that. Well, I want more of our objectivist intellectuals to radiate that. Ben is just a good guy. He's just a good guy.
I can't mention Ben without mentioning his wife, wonderful wife, Anne. They're just wonderful people.
Yeah, they are. That's all I gotta say.
They're
couple.
Good. They're real good.
I love that we have some couples in the objectivist community and friends at large who are interesting mixtures. Not clashing, like how'd he get up with her, but just different. And that can be very sweet. But with Ben and Ann, no, you just they belong together, and it makes perfect sense. So anyway, Ben is cool. Audrey agrees too. Yeah,
there's one question I need to answer.
Yes.
So, Real Raxus, I don't know who you are, so if I do know who you are, let me know your first name so I know who you are and where you met me. Other than that, if we haven't met yet, good to meet you. Hope to meet you in real life. All right. So, is it true that Rand is a vegan? No, I'm not entirely sure where that came from, but no, she, and I'll tell you this. One of her favorite things to make was what they called the Ayn Rand casserole.
The Atlas Shrugged casserole.
I'm sorry, not the Ayn Rand casserole. The Atlas Shrugged casserole. And there was a box of Mueller's, I think it was like elbow.
Elbow macaroni, cremettes or Mueller's or one of the...
it was the Mueller's.
Mueller's, okay.
And it was on the back of a Mueller's box, and it was basically a casserole with beef and onion and some cheese and whatever else you put into it with the elbow macaroni. And they made it so much during the time that Ayn Rand was writing Atlas Shrugged, they named it the Atlas Shrugged casserole.
Yes, it became the Atlas, whatever Mueller's was calling it on the box, it became the Atlas Shrugged. And yes, that did include ground beef, so no, Ayn Rand was not a vegan. And you say is, but actually she has passed away. She has not been with us since 1982, so yes, it is not true that Ayn Rand is nor was a vegan.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, she would often call salad rabbit food. But not that she had anything against vegetables per se or in a philosophical way.
Yeah, Tom says, I think she hated lettuce. I guess there was one of the, not traditions, but a habit that she came over with from Russia. And it's ironic because, they didn't necessarily have good meat to eat during poor times in communist Russia. But I think that might be all the more reason why once she was in America, she just wasn't that into salads and such things. Of course, we get all these stories from books like Facets of Ayn Rand by Charles and Marianne Surius, which I heartily recommend. And that book has been put online. It's not in my show notes in the description under YouTube. But if you do a Google search for Facets of Ayn Rand, you will find the Atlas Shrugged casserole story, and lots of other ones that came from Marianne Suarez, who
so
worked
good.
with her for years.
And Marianne's husband, Charles. So very good stories.
Super
Wonderful.
duper sweet. Did I mention that tomorrow is Groundhog Day?
I think you're saying it again to prove the point.
Good. Okay.
Deja vu all over again.
If you look in the show notes, and everything we talk about, except for the things we talk about that we weren't planning to talk about, are in the show notes. Look in the description on YouTube for all sorts of good, tasty links. Same thing on Facebook, on the Facebook video description. And, got to do a refresh here. On the Facebook side, make sure my comments are up to date. There we go. Okay. If you look at the description, you will find links for all this good stuff, including Robert and Amy Take on the News. And all I have for Take on the News is federal courts undercut Trump's mass deportation campaign. Take a look at that story in the New York Times, and yes, it is a gift link. You don't have to be a subscriber to read it. I've gifted you a link from my subscription. And yes, I am a crazy leftist with a subscription to the New York Times. Actually, I get it really cheap, which you can do if you just cancel a regular subscription, and then they'll be like, well, can we keep you as a subscriber for $4 a month? And okay, yeah, that's fine. I can pay $4 a month for that. Oh, I can't pay $25 a month, but I can pay $4.
I just love incentivized marketing. I just love it.
It's a beautiful thing. I'm sure most of you are savvy enough to know that trick already. But in any event, yes, the courts are fighting things that need to be fought. You don't hear about it as much because there are victories, but they're small victories. They don't make the headlines the way that they should, but they are out there. And that's why, again, I was celebrating not just the federal courts today, but the Supreme Court, which had its origins on this date. According to that story, a policy intended to keep immigrants detained indefinitely, sad stories that we've been hearing about, has led to a deluge of lawsuits, overwhelming some federal courts and resulting in many releases. Thank goodness for that.
Yes, including that young 5-year-old boy and his father, who were bamboozled into being caught by these people from ICE and sent down to Texas. And
if they can't run them through the system in a reasonable amount of time, even if it's going to mean a deportation, then they have no right to lock them up at all.
And on that note, real quick, if you want to support a good charity right now, if you want to help out the people who are being detained, there are about 70 to 75,000 detainees in ICE facilities right now as I speak. That is up 70% from a year ago. Okay. There's a really excellent organization called Haven Watch. Haven Watch, it used to be called Safe Haven, if you're familiar with that organization, but then they renamed themselves Haven Watch. And basically what happens is if you are, and this is absolutely has happened so much in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and St. Paul, and actually other places, Maine, I think Arizona. Basically, people are taken out of their vehicles. They haven't done anything wrong. They're not impeding anybody, and they're basically taken out of their vehicles and sent to these facilities without access to lawyers or their phones. Their phones are taken, and in Minneapolis in particular, their phones are taken and their coats are taken. So when they are finally released, which could be a 12 hours, 24 hours, 72 hours, whatever it may be, they're finally released without charges, by the way. All these people are being released without charges. They are released without a coat in, minus 20-degree weather in Minneapolis. No cell phone, no way to call an Uber, no way to get home. And Haven Watch is an organization that picks them up, gives them a coat, gives them a new cell phone, and gets them home safely. I can't even imagine. It's the cruelty is beyond the creativity of the cruelty in this case is heinous and evil. So if you want to go there and send them $5, please do.
Yeah, and also in that same section, you will see our link to the Bulwark podcast. Great way to keep up to date on some of these actions that are being taken. some of the ways in which some of the worst of the things that are going on are being challenged and in some cases actually defeated. In the chat, Steve is asking, are you talking about Venezuelan TPS? And no, but yeah, certainly the, what is it? The trusted protection status, temporary protection status. I forget what TPS actually stands for, but yes, the protected status of Venezuelans. No, that was canceled by the Trump administration. I don't know if you wanted us to talk about that. It's bizarre that Trump has done that in Venezuela, of all places, because although he's taken Maduro out, Delcy Rodriguez is running the place, which was Maduro's second in command. She and her brother Jorge are running the country, and I don't think that Venezuelans have any less need for temporary protected status from America or anywhere else that would be willing to take them. So yeah, I don't have any particular information on that, Steve, but you're welcome to share it in the chat if you like. Steve also asks, is it true that Ayn Rand never drove a car? That's true. She was not a driver.
Right.
Her husband could drive, but she could not. And it's interesting to think that, if you were born in the early 1900s, yeah, it was not obvious that you would learn how to drive a car.
Yeah, she was born in 1905, and she would describe herself as being physically timid. So, she wasn't a gymnast, for instance, and she didn't drive a car. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that was related, but yeah, she never learned to drive a car. That is true.
Yeah. Her husband was the driver of the two.
Yeah, unfortunately, she was successful enough and lived in New York City that she could take a cab anywhere that she wanted to go. Or, I don't know, maybe she reached the point where she could call a limo. Although that's kind of a modern thing, too. It was usually very rich people who had access to limousines. Nowadays, yeah, you just rent a limousine because you want to have a big night out or something. But, as I say, everything is getting better all the time. With that news little bit handled, because again, my intention was not to get too much into the news today. Under shameless self-promotion, and what are we listening to this week? Well, that takes us back into the news. Because under shameless self-promotion, you will find an episode of The Capitalist Corner, Michael Leibowitz and Mark Pellegrino's show every day at noon Eastern Time, 9 on the left coast. You'll find an episode called Iran, Hamas, Trump lawsuit, and more. It's a news show, so they list news stories.
Yeah.
And we got to be on it.
Yeah.
Well, 4 of us did. 4 different guests got to be on it. And yeah, we were part of the panel talking about the events of the day.
Yeah, 2 of those people we know from our chat, as a matter of fact. So there was Race, who was on, and also Ian. So
yeah, and we got to meet Charles, who is apparently an expert on money, and there was a very good conversation.
Yeah, it was a great conversation, and I really enjoyed it. And I have to admit, I didn't actually read all of the material ahead of time,
yeah.
But I've been keeping up with things. But yeah,
it'd be nice if you're listening, Michael. We would be happy to guest host again.
Yes.
So let us know.
Yeah, I'll send him a note.
I also, this week, published in my Substack an essay version of a previous episode of Life on Earth entitled, What Can You Do When You Have to Deal with People? So if you are not much for watching an old video of that, you can now read the essay on my Substack. If you're not already subscribed, well, you know what to do. Follow the links in the description on YouTube. And then the last item there is, that's me playing ukulele and guitar and bass guitar, playing the old Beatles song, Something, in the park during COVID. And what's strange is that video doesn't have very many views. It's like 50 odd views. Mm-hmm. But then I realized I didn't actually post it until last year. Mm-hmm. I think I only originally ever put it on Facebook. So if you could, watch that video. It's very charming. It's musical. It's me out in the park. 3 of myself superimposed. And I need to get that view count out. Help me out. And that gets us into hot topics for the week. Again, it's February 1st. Tomorrow's Ayn Rand's birthday. And that means love is in the air. Yeah, it's not just Valentine's and romance, but Rand's Day. You should have a lot of self-love going on, and you should have love for the people in your circle, your kindred spirits, those who you care about. One of my kindred spirits is the great Jimmy Valiant. And
Jimmy.
There's been some controversy lately. In fact, we mentioned Michael Leibowitz, and he's kind of on board with some of this controversy in the objectivist community. Now, for the larger audience, because a lot of you are not objectivists, you're not necessarily Ayn Rand people, objectivism is the name of Ayn Rand's philosophy. She gave it that name. She remarked apparently in a conversation at one point, the ideal name for her philosophy would have been existentialism, because the founding premise or the fundamental premise of her philosophy is existence exists.
Yes.
The primacy of existence.
Yes.
But unfortunately, existentialism was already used by a philosophy that was very much, in many ways, the opposite of hers.
Yeah.
So he called her philosophy objectivism.
As in having objectivity.
Objectivity.
And that brings in not just metaphysics, but epistemology and reason, and that really underscores reason, I think, which is really a good. I think she did well with naming her philosophy.
Yes, it was the best name she could have given it, other than one that wasn't available. And yes, it does make the point that not only is knowledge objective, which some people find controversial, but ethics is objective, which a lot of people find controversial, and politics and art as well. Maybe the art one is the most controversial when art is objective. Eye of the beholder. How dare you tell me what's great art and what's not? So, our good friend James Valiant has recently published on the socials, on the Facebooks, why he no longer calls himself an objectivist. And it's not because he no longer regards himself as an advocate and proponent and believer in this philosophy. It's more what's happened to that word because of clashes within the community, or the broader, not community, whatever the word is for the broader domain of those who consider themselves objectivists. So...
Yeah, you mean there are people who are less than savory and less than rational who might call themselves objectivists?
There are some horrible people who call themselves objectivists. I mean,
less than savory.
Yeah, I'm thinking of a few people in particular, and I don't even want to name names. There's a psychotherapist who originally I thought as an objectivist really fell out of the philosophy when he started condemning suicidal people for weakness.
Not a good idea there, mister.
He had read some articles and decided it was a movement on the left or something of people who had sympathy for people who'd committed suicide and were kind of lionizing them or making them into heroes or something. And he just lashed out against people who are suicidal. I thought, if your average Joe did this, if your Joe Lunchbucket said, well, I don't know, I think people who are suicidal are weak and they're doing terrible things to other people around them, I could get it. I would disagree, but okay, I can. But for a therapist to say that, yeah. And it only got worse from there. So I'm not surprised that at this point, Christopher Smith says, Brandon, no, somebody who's still alive, somebody who is not yet metaphysically challenged.
His last name rhymes with turd.
I don't even want to go that far.
Did I say that? I'm sorry.
It's in any event. I can see why you wouldn't want to be associated with a slice of what calls themselves objectivist out there. But
yeah,
I thought I should address the issue because it seems like it's the cool thing. All the cool kids are doing it.
Well,
So here's what I've got to say about that.
Yes.
Why I am an objectivist.
Why are you an objectivist? Why do you call yourself an objectivist?
Not why I call myself an objectivist, but here's why I am an objectivist.
Okay.
Because I believe that Ayn Rand's philosophy is correct. It is a true and compelling philosophical understanding of reality, the nature of man, in the generic sense, of course, I mean women, man's highest values, the virtues which make it possible to achieve those values, and to live a successful life. And objectivism is comprehensive. It covers everything a philosophy needs to cover, from our relationship to existence, metaphysics, and our way of knowing anything, our means of knowledge, epistemology, the principles of right action, ethics, virtues, how men should live together in a society, politics, and how to satisfy our spiritual, psychological needs, our need to both see and live our abstract ideals, and that's art. Well, that's why I'm an objectivist. Why do I call myself an objectivist? I think the first question kind of answers the second one. I call myself an objectivist because given what objectivism is, and the fact that that's what I believe, well, that's what I am. So I totally get why some people are washing their hands of the label, but I think that gives our crazy makers and chaos stirrers more credit than they deserve. And besides, to steal an overused phrase that isn't as popular now but used to be, words have meanings. And the meaning of objectivist is somebody who believes objectivism is true and lives their life by those truths. So now you get to decide. First of all, you get to decide if that's you. And second of all, you get to decide, I don't know, does Robert really fill the bill? Each of us get to decide that about ourselves and to everybody else. And that's not unique to philosophy. That's true when somebody tells you, I'm an IT guy, and he has no idea what he's doing with computers, and he works at McDonald's. Or he is an IT guy, and that's what he does all day. And you say, yes, that's an information technology professional. So, Gary says, an objectivist need not be a Jedi master. Yes.
Yeah.
So you decide, how strong or how good an objectivist I am, or you are, and all of that. But no, if I believed in Jesus Christ and I tried to live my life in accordance with the principles of the New Testament, I would call myself a Christian if I was doing my honest best, even if I fell short, even if I had a few hokey ideas that a lot of religious people would say that's hokey. I'd be a Christian because that's what a Christian is. Somebody who believes those things and tries to live that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if anybody noticed on my wall, it was back on January 26th that I wrote this. And I didn't, talk about in terms of other people are asking themselves whether they're an objectivist. But this is what I wrote. I'll just say this. If I know you and we share deeply, and we deeply value the same philosophy of Ayn Rand's objectivism, I might still call you an objectivist, and myself too. Hope that's okay. Why do I call myself an objectivist? And my neighborhood group, Great Lakes Objectivists, aka GLOW, because Ayn Rand's philosophy has saved my life, brought me to a rational and happier outlook, and given me innumerable friends to value and love, even ones who are not actually into Ayn Rand. I would not have learned to deeply value my life and my loved ones without rational egoism. That's Ayn Rand's statement on morality, and her rational statement about morality and how it's based in the facts of reality and reason. I would not have been so committed to the method of reason, logic, and the primacy of existence if it weren't for that wonderfully philosophical and creative lady. And knowing myself to be a good person, I hope to honor her legacy and ideas by presenting myself as an objectivist. I mean, I would call myself an objectivist just as I did when I was 15 years old, and I called myself a proponent of reason and logic. And that was even before I got into Friedrich Nietzsche, and I called myself a Nietzschean existentialist. I'm into understanding the world, and my favorite quote from Tom Bowden. He's written some wonderful books about Ayn Rand, and some commentary. He, I think, is now retired. He worked with the Ayn Rand Institute, and it's on my Facebook wall, and it says, just a quote from him. It says, "Demonstrating that reality is a single realm accessible to human understanding." And I mean that. Everything that we see around us, it can be understood. It can be figured out. It can be, you can use your reason to understand what the nature of anything around you is, including yourself, especially yourself. Yeah. So that's what I would consider. An objectivist is somebody who is actively thinking, is actively trying to understand, actively judging, actively figuring things out, coming up with solutions. And
and as always, it's, you can't answer a question with that like that without saying, well, what do you mean by objectivist? Because I know people who would say, oh, you're an objectivist, you just don't know it yet, to people who are very rational. And I'm not sure that that makes sense, except in context. When somebody says that, you're like, oh, okay, I see why you're considering an objectivist. He's more rational than some of the objectivists I know. I think that's a little, has to be explained once you make the statement. Just Sports Things wants to know, is Phil going to see his shadow tomorrow? I think the answer is yes. Given the weather forecast, I think it's going to be clear enough. And yeah, he will see his shadow jump back into his burrow, and we will have more winter. I would love not to have that prediction, and maybe I will be proven wrong. But since you asked, that is the answer. Ideology UK says, and this is provocative, to me, objectivists have the same kind of cultish sheen as Scientologists. I have not noticed a sheen, and I assume you mean essentially a kind of a collective impression that we give off. And I have not gotten that kind of impression. No. I think that we have interesting variations. Here in Southeast Michigan, we have several different objectivist groups because the temperaments are radically different between people.
Yeah. Despite
the fact of holding the same or similar ideas. And no, I don't think cult applies. I think we're so kind of anti-cult that if anything, you get too much variety, you get too much eclecticism.
And you get too many schisms for this to be a cult.
Yeah, really.
And for it to be based on independent thought and reason, like critical thinking as a virtue, I don't think that would be defined as a cult. I do know a lot about Scientology. I've read up on the subject. I've listened to a lot of stories. And I don't know any objectivists who were caught in a compound and had to escape from it. Just saying.
Yeah, we don't have like a ship that we make people work on, and you can't get off the ship.
Yeah, there's no forced labor in objectivism. Correct me if I'm wrong.
We don't lock anybody into a hurt locker or a closet, and but
that's one of the funnier ideas,
Yeah, we're a collective of radical individualists. Gary said earlier, the great Steve Rogers made a great point in regard to this question of calling yourself an objectivist. Should a piano player be deemed perpetually a student of piano, or a pianoist, or a pianist, regardless of skill level? It's a great point because it doesn't necessarily make the point, a simplistic point. There are people who are great piano players who still consider themselves students of piano. I always forget the musician, but there was an 80-year-old cellist who was asked, do you still practice? Yeah, I practice every day. And they asked, why do you still practice at 80 years old? And his answer was, well, I think I'm starting to see some improvement. And the point is that, yeah, you're always a student in the sense of you're always willing to learn. Do you ever graduate? Barring that there's, some kind of graduation ceremony or something. So I like Steve's perspective on this, and I do agree with him. I think that it's true to both be an ist and a student, to be an objectivist and still say, yeah, I'm still learning. I don't know if I have anything left to learn, but most of you out there, just kidding, just kidding. But yes, I like his point, but I think you see my point as well. Paul says, well, they had the E meter, that would be the Scientologists, the cans hooked up to a voltmeter that they used as this rudimentary truth.
We have the O meter. Is that like cans of SpaghettiOs?
O meter.
That's SpaghettiO cans.
SpaghettiOs, yeah, because they're O-shaped, like objectivist shaped. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, goodness.
Ian says, isn't it forced labor to make us watch all these videos? Ian, you don't know the half of it because we've been in this so long, like before the internet was a thing, that we used to buy cassette tapes of lectures to listen to.
Gosh.
I've got, cassette tape boxes downstairs with thousands of dollars worth that are absolutely worthless now because all of the lectures are online. You can watch all of this stuff for free. And
yes.
yeah, and we were forced to watch, kind of like a Clockwork Orange. We had the toothpicks holding our eyeballs open
terrible.
and Beethoven's Ninth Symphony playing while we listened to Leonard Peikoff's latest lecture at the Ford Hall Forum. I remember. Some of you, they probably drug you so that you don't remember.
It's not that we enjoyed any of it or could apply anything to our lives.
Well, no, we had to.
It was forced.
It's the only way to be in with the in crowd. Steve says, but some objectivists are afraid to express any disagreement with Rand. I counter that claim, or rather I would ask, where have you run into that? To be clear, I'm sure that there's some folks out there who are squeamish or worried about being judged or something in that regard, but I consider that to be a trivial issue, and I hope folks get over it very, very quickly in their time looking at these ideas. It's the opposite of everything they're learning to think, well, I can't worry about what's true. I have to worry about what people think. Yeah, no, not a good thing.
Yeah. No, I mean...
But there are stories about that.
Yeah.
Krista Smith points out a lot of them were personal friends of hers. Yeah, don't read Nathaniel Brandon's book, but he will tell you the stories about, he knew he was an intimidating a-hole to a lot of the students. He found himself getting on a power trip, and that's unfortunate. I don't think it was as bad as some folks make it out to be. I think Ayn Rand would have put the kibosh on that. But it was a thing, and it was unfortunate. It never should have happened. And if any of you out there find yourselves falling victim to that kind of thing,
yeah,
I won't just say get over it, but do this. Consider what happens when folks, like some of the folks in our chat, do exactly what you are calling yourself too afraid to do. What do? They get witty rejoinders from people like us, or we shrug it off. It's not that important to have folks disagree.
Right.
And in the best of cases, it's the sign of an active mind.
When I ever think about that, I mean, in terms of how Ayn Rand interacted with the people that she valued, like Marianne Suarez, for instance. So Marianne Suarez was her typist during the time that she was writing Atlas Shrugged. So she would be typing up the manuscript, and you'd have to read the Facets of Ayn Rand, and all the stories that Marianne Suarez talks about, how courteous Ayn Rand was, how considerate of a boss she was, how patient she was with her, the glorious lunch date and the copper pot story that she had. Look it up online. It's all there. Look up Ayn Rand copper pot, Marianne Suarez, or whatever it is, or Facets of Ayn Rand. And it's a great story, and it's really indicative of how Ayn Rand valued the people that were around her, and who she liked, who she was friends with, and she took friendship very seriously, and she took love of her friends very seriously. So I don't think that is a yeah. What Nathaniel Brandon did was entirely wrong. His approach to all of that, and it's a shame that it was just a shame that he did that.
Yeah. Well, we have another example, another thought experiment from Ideology UK, who says, Robert and Amy, can one be an objectivist and a Christian? Wouldn't an objectivist consider charity and works to be collectivist? And then he wraps it up with our most objectivists, atheists. Again,
I would answer all those.
again, before I would answer that
Yeah.
question, I would want to know, what do you mean by Christian, and what do you mean by objectivist?
Yeah.
In the terms we're talking about it here, the answer would be no, because that person would have to say, well, I disagree not just with this and that aspect of objectivism, but with fundamentals that then undercut everything else Ayn Rand had to say. Because the Christian worldview requires a metaphysics very different from Ayn Rand's. The primacy of existence just goes away. To believe that there is an entity that transcends reality or transcends existence, that consciousness is actually the producer of reality versus the other way around. You can believe that, and you can have that discussion or make that argument, but it would be kind of absurd to say, and that's an objectivist perspective.
Yeah.
Or say, well, that's one small way in which I disagree with objectivism, but I like these. Here's a whole bunch of things I do like about objectivism.
Right. And I would say that objectivism is primarily a method. Now, maybe not everyone's going to agree with me on this, but it's primarily a method of thinking. It's primarily being objective, using reason, using logic, inducing your concepts. I know that's
Yeah, I've got to disagree with you there. And I'll tell you why.
Yeah, wait, I'm not even done yet, though.
Okay,
You can't
go ahead.
disagree with me because I'm not finished. So I would recommend you go look up the Ayn Rand lexicon and try to get to know a little bit about objectivist thought with regard to epistemology or the study of thinking. And what really helped me understand where I think you're going with this is the difference between intrinsicism, subjectivism, and objectivism. And, when you think of Christianity, when I think of Christianity, it's not even so much the metaphysics. It's what Christianity demands is that you don't think, that you rely on a dogmatic set of commandments that cannot be questioned, that you just have to act on them blindly. And so it demands of you to drop your rational faculty. It demands of you to stop thinking and obey. That is what Christianity fundamentally is. Is that compatible with objectivism? No, it's the complete opposite of it. And in terms of, so go ahead and tell me what you disagree with, please.
No, it can't just be method, because there are Christians who would say, I follow all of the methods of objectivism. I've known Christians who are more rational than some of the objectivists I know. And that would be their counterclaim.
They could say that.
Yes.
I would disagree with that. And
Of course you
say,
would, but it's only because of the content that you can then say you're not following the method.
Yes,
So-
I see where you're going with that, and I agree.
I mean, I love your idea that if there is an objectivist who holds all of the content essentially disconnected from how he lives his actual life,
Right.
then that's not a good thing. You might or may not still call him an objectivist, but the point is that's not the goal.
Right.
The goal is to actually live these ideas. And
So you have to do your own thinking here, okay? That's what I'm going to say. You can ask us any question that you like, but I highly recommend going into the lexicon, doing your own thinking, reading Atlas Shrugged or reading The Fountainhead. Just read one from the front to the back cover. Read something that Ayn Rand actually wrote, and
so it would be an interesting question to ask yourself if you, for example, know of a Christian objectivist, or if you call yourself a Christian objectivist. Not, how can I get these people to take me seriously or consider me an objectivist, or why are they prejudiced against Christians? But ask yourself, well, what is the objection that people have? What is it about being a Christian? And our questioner is saying, well, by Christian, I mean believing in the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus. That's Christianity in a nutshell. So what is it about those beliefs that cannot be integrated with what Ayn Rand believed, what her philosophy was, what objectivism is? And what I see, and not in this case, but in general, is a lot of people look at objectivism and say, well, it's about rationality. And I believe in being rational. And it's about ethics. And I believe that people should be ethical. And it's about capitalism. And I believe in free markets and free people. So I haven't seen a philosophy that agrees with me as much as objectivism. I'm an objectivist. But the question to ask yourself is, what is it about not just be rational, be moral, have free markets, have free political systems? What is it about Ayn Rand's ideas that clash with the idea of, and incidentally, objectivists believe in life. I don't know about Jesus, but we believe in the life of people, and a lot of people have existed. There may have been a prophet named Jesus. We believe in death because everything is finite, and all of the evidence is that every living thing eventually dies. Resurrection, not so much. And if you are a Christian, you know that not just the life, the death, and the resurrection of Christ, and okay, that's three things. You know that the resurrection story means a whole slew of other things. If not, it wouldn't matter. It would not be the center of this religion. And what that means, the idea of vicarious redemption, for example, that your sins can be forgiven by somebody else in somebody else's name. I mean, that in and of itself is on, I won't just say objectivist terms, but on logical grounds, makes no sense at all. And you don't need to give me the counter arguments. I know what they are, and they rely on a Christian metaphysics. The idea that, well, no, because you can't accept your own forgiveness unless somebody else bears that burden. I'm been a Christian. I know the whole story.
I was Catholic.
But you see the point. So what I would do if I was an objectivist Christian, quote unquote, is I would ask myself, why don't these people think I belong in this club? And if all you've encountered is irrational prejudices and angry people who can't fully explain themselves, I don't know, maybe I can understand why you would think, well, damn it, I totally love Ayn Rand, and so I'm an objectivist. I get that. But I would look a little bit harder if you're actually frustrated or disappointed or whatnot, because there is more of a conflict there than maybe meets the eye.
And like I say, use your own judgment. And that, any good objectivist or any good person actually who is not an objectivist will never tell you, believe me when I say, or take my word for it. Never. That is abusive. That is, we were we just interviewed this really wonderful lady named Catherine Dickerson. And she were talking about respecting another person's mind when they're trying to solve a problem or answer a question for themselves.
Yep.
And she's really excellent, and so judge for yourself. You've got to think, and reason about this for yourself. If you don't like it, then that's fine. But I would really highly recommend keep your thinking going. Keep asking yourself questions. Don't shy away from something that it's just because you don't feel like it. Really challenge yourself. Really get to know yourself, your own ideas, the ideas around you, the ideas in objectivism. Read Atlas Shrugged, and keep going. I'll tell you, Ayn Rand saved my life, and I just want to show you real quick. This is the. This is an artifact from the Nasir Museum here. This is a paperback of Atlas Shrugged. You can't really quite see it because in trying to preserve it, I put masking tape all over the cover. But as you can see, it's all unbounded and it's falling apart completely. I got this when I was 17. I don't know how many times I read it. I have marginalia in it, and I love it. And I have things underlined everywhere. It's wonderful. It was such a philosophical adventure. And by the time I got done reading it, I thought to myself, wow, that she covered everything. I mean, and I knew philosophy, at least to the extent that I did, as a teenager, and in terms of understanding different philosophical systems, including Nietzsche's, at least to some extent there. But, don't deprive yourself. Read Atlas Shrugged.
Yeah, Matthew Humphrey says the same thing. Read Atlas Shrugged and or the essay collections. Yes. I'm going to answer a couple questions real quick in the chat because I love the chat, and then we may want to wrap up.
Yeah.
But Akira Felix says, people think it's a cult because of the open-close debate. Most of it is unsubstantiated. Libertarians bring up one of Murray Rothbard's friends that joined the collective. Yeah, I have not seen a single issue that is the cause of most of the controversy, other than the fact, the common thread, which is just the very fact that there are occasional schisms, blow-ups, divisions. The open-closed debate, I've explained that one before. It depends on what you mean by open. It depends on what you mean by closed. Do you regard objectivism as a name, a proper noun, Ayn Rand's philosophy, or do you regard it as a school of thought? I regard it as a proper noun, but if somebody is using it to describe a school of thought, I can have that conversation with them on their terms, tell them why I don't use the word that way, and there's no conflict. There's no divide there other than that. Oh, okay, that's not what I mean when I say objectivism. And most of these debates, these conflicts, these blow-ups can be handled in a similar way. And it's not that, well, then nobody's right and nobody's wrong. It's more that people are wrong when they are being wrong, when they are discussing things the wrong way, using the wrong terms, approaching it in the wrong way, not meeting people where they're at. Basically, two people having two different conversations and not even realizing it. Right.
It's really essential to define your terms before you delve into a conversation. Yeah, and one of the other thing is that in terms of objectivism being rigid or dogmatic, as some people would say, that comes across when objectivists have a sense of certainty about their thinking. Certainty doesn't, and this is something we'd have to go into more in depth, but certainty does not mean dogma, and it doesn't mean rigidity in thinking. Certainty means that you've derived something from reality and you know it so well that you're certain of it. There are so many instances of this is the way that this is. This is the nature of a cat. The cat is not going to sprout wings and fly away. The cat is going to want their food. There's so many different things you can derive from of the nature of, say, of a cat. Okay, so using that as an example. And you can say, I am certain of this particular thing about this cat. Being certain about something doesn't mean that you're being dogmatic or intrinsic or religious about it. It means that you have discovered enough knowledge to understand that there's a certainty about the situation. And you can find that in all areas of your life, hopefully. Just think about it a little bit.
Yeah, Steve had asked about Mother Teresa. Mother Teresa is a great example, but it's also an example that requires a whole conversation.
Yeah.
There's the idea in ethics, which objectivism does not hold, but what's called ethical egoism. This idea that everything is egoist and everything is ethical if you chose it. It's a way of taking subjectivity and trying to make it sound objective. The idea is if you were motivated to do something, then you wanted it. And if you wanted it, you thought it was in your self-interest. The problem is that not everything you want is in your self-interest. You can't say, I was so frustrated I started banging my head on the wall. Well, that served a certain need, and therefore banging your head on the wall in that moment was in your self-interest. At that point, then, the idea of self-interest actually has no meaning whatsoever. If everything is in your self-interest, then nothing is in your self-interest, to steal a line from The Incredibles. So it's not the case that because what Mother Teresa wanted was to minister to the needs of the suffering, incidentally, without relieving their suffering, because she thought that suffering was noble. Therefore, that was in her rational self-interest. It's just not the case that no matter what you want, if you want it, it's good for you. That's just an obliteration of objectivity and of any sense of man's actual nature. Yeah. You have no nature. If you want it, it's your nature. That is not true.
Right.
So there is that. Steve said, what's the deal with Mother Teresa? Do objectivists judge her as a bad person, or is the criticism more that she was not actually happy? We judge her as a bad person. I don't even put it in terms of her being a bad person, but we judge her as a bad person because she had bad ideals and a bad method of reaching her ideals. And whatever suffering she relieved, she caused a great more. And it did not serve her own life. Well, it's what she wanted. It doesn't mean that what she wanted served her life.
Yeah, there's more to say about Mother Teresa, so yeah.
Yeah, and smarter people than me have said it. Well, maybe not, but other people than me have said it. Yeah. Matthew Humphrey says, I know Christians who agree, or at least claim to agree, with a substantial portion of objectivism. But they aren't objectivists and don't claim to be. And Matthew, that's obviously the right perspective to take. It would be like if I said I agreed with a lot of things in Christianity, but I don't believe in that Jesus Christ was a transcendent being, the Son of God, resurrected, any of the metaphysically mystical stuff. Would you say I was still a Christian? Yeah. Gary gives me a compliment there. Thank you for that. And I will take a look at those 5 minutes and see if I can turn some of that into a short.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Ideology UK says one more. I did read some essays I was sent them by Rosie Ginsburg. I'll get Atlas Shrugged. Last question. Is there anything in objectivism you don't believe? And does objectivism develop after Rand? Well, that's two last questions. Is there anything in objectivism I don't believe? I don't believe anything in objectivism. I agree with a lot in objectivism. I think I agree with everything in objectivism. I wouldn't say I believe it. Believe is a funny word. It depends on what you mean by believe. There are opinions that Ayn Rand held, and held strongly, that I disagree with, that were not part of her philosophy.
Right.
She didn't think, for example, that a rational woman would want to be president of the United States. She was asked, who do you think would be a great woman? Who would be the first woman president? Something like that. And she said, I don't think a rational woman would want to be a president, and any woman who would want the job is not not worthy, but not the right person for the job.
or psychologically unable or whatever it is. But
she did go on to say, well, it may get to where things are so bad that a rational and capable woman would take the job just because she was the best person for the job and there was no one better. And Ayn Rand said that could happen, but what would it do to her psychologically to have to say there are no better men in the world to take this job? She was not a women's liberator. She was not a feminist. She was not an egalitarian in regard to the sexes. And it's not that she thought women were less than men, but she thought they had very different psychologies. And Kira Felix actually says what my answer to that would be, which is Margaret Thatcher proved her wrong.
Yeah.
Yes, but Margaret Thatcher was a unique case. Consider, her husband. She was an unusually strong woman who managed to manage a very difficult situation. So, I think Margaret Thatcher is a great counterexample, but it's complicated.
Yeah, and Ayn Rand would not say that, when I'm writing about a woman president is part of my philosophy. She did make that clear. In terms of, is there anything in objectivism, does objectivism develop after Rand? And I would say yes and no. The thing is that just like, for instance, Nietzschean existentialism, everything that he wrote, that's Nietzschean existentialism. You can't say, well, I think that Nietzsche, I think in his philosophical entirety of his system, as it were, I think it would be proper to include the idea of the Holy Trinity in Nietzsche's philosophy. Now, you can't do that. Nietzsche wrote what he wrote. Ayn Rand wrote what she wrote.
I would do something even more credibly than that. I would say if you were a Nietzschean existentialist and you wanted to say, but I think Ayn Rand's idea of reason was more compatible with Nietzscheism, and therefore objectivist rationality is part of the Nietzschean philosophy. And it's easy to say religion, yeah, okay. But take one that's less obvious, a way you can improve Nietzsche's philosophy. I wouldn't call that part of Nietzsche's philosophy either.
No.
So I wouldn't say that as part of Nietzsche, just like I wouldn't say if you thought of something that Ayn Rand never did.
Yeah.
For example, a more robust validation of induction. To say, well, that's the objectivist theory of induction. No, it's your theory of and maybe all objectivists should adopt that and make it part of their personal philosophy.
Yeah, it doesn't...
you wouldn't put the label objectivism on it. You just confuse people that way.
It doesn't mean that all philosophical innovation stops with what Ayn Rand wrote in her lifetime. It means that her philosophy is what she wrote. You can't call it, well, no, now this is part of objectivism because I say so, even though she's dead. But you can say, and this has been done, this is an extension, like there's a really excellent book by Dr. Ellen Kenner and Dr. Ed Locke called The Selfish Path to Romance. And it says right on the cover, inspired by Ayn Rand's writings. Inspired by her. It's not part of objectivism, but it's definitely inspired by her. So take that for what, use your own judgment. Again, we're not looking for a system where we can say these are 10 principles that you must live by dogmatically, and now we don't need to think about it anymore. That is not a realistic way of living as a human being. And so you have to keep thinking about it and keep being very specific about that particular thing. Yeah.
So with all that said, and with Valentine's Day right around the corner, I would like to quote Ayn Rand.
Oh.
On romantic love, from her essay, The quote-unquote Conflicts of Men's Interests. Conflicts of Men's Interests. You will know that as chapter 11 of the collection The Virtue of Selfishness, or you may have read the original way back in The Objectivist, her magazine. And in that essay, she said this, like any other, now think about this, you folks who think you know everything Ayn Rand has to say about love. Like any other value, love is not a static quantity to be divided, but an unlimited response to be earned. The love for one friend is not a threat to the love for another. And neither is the love for the various members of one's family, assuming they have earned it. The most exclusive form, romantic love, is not an issue of competition. If two men are in love with the same woman, what she feels for either of them is not determined by what she feels for the other, and is not taken away from him. If she chooses one of them, the quote-unquote loser could not have had what the winner has earned. It is only among the irrational, emotion-motivated persons whose love is divorced from any standards of value that chance rivalries, accidental conflicts, and blind choices prevail. But then whoever wins does not win much. Among the emotion-driven, neither love nor any other emotion has any meaning. Unquote. Now, I'm going to read the beginning of that over again, just the first bit. Like any other value, love is not a static quantity to be divided, but an unlimited response to be earned. The love for one friend is not a threat to the love for another, and neither is the love for the various members of one's family, assuming they have earned it. Now let me read you a quote from the science fiction author Robert Heinlein. The more you love, the more you can love, and the more intensely you love. Nor is there any limit to how many you can love. If a person had time enough he could love all of that majority who are decent and just. The more you love, the more you can love, and the more intensely you love. Nor is there any limit to how many you can love. If a person had time enough, he could love all of that majority who are decent and just. I don't know, sounds a little more woo when Heinlein says it, but in economics and politics, we are fond of saying, oh, this guy believes in a fixed pie. He doesn't understand that in a free market, no, the pies are unlimited. You make your own pie. And when you run out of pie, you make another pie. And one person's slice of pie doesn't take away from the next guy because it's not a static quantity, as Ayn Rand puts it. Love is not a static quantity to be divided, but an unlimited response. Or as Heinlein says, the more you love, the more you can love, and the more intensely you love. Nor is there any limit on how many you can love. If a person had time enough, he could love all of that majority who are decent and just. I'm not going to analyze that. I'm just going to leave that there. I'm going to leave that with you and wish you all a happy February 1st. We are into the month, not just of Black history, but of romance and affection. And I don't just mean romantic love. I mean friends.
Yes.
Which, again, you can't have too many of. Granted, you can not have enough time to spend as much time with them as you like. That's why Heinlein says if one had time enough.
So you can't just leave me hanging like this, okay?
Why can't I leave you hanging like this? Do tell.
Because those quotes are so very valuable, and I would add as an application to that thinking about love that Ayn Rand did, or Heinlein maybe. You need to tell people that you love why you love them. It's so important, and I can't stress this enough. It's so important to tell people why you love them, specifically why you love them. What do you love about your friend? What do you love about your significant other? You need to put that into words. And just like you need to have good conversations and positive self-talk with yourself internally, you need to know why you love yourself. That's you need to put these things into words, and I just want to stress that.
Okay.
And
Amy's giving you a duty here. You got an obligation.
It's not an obligation. It is.
It reminds me a little of the internet memes that are like, tell your friends you love them, and like do it real close to them and make it weird.
Weird about it.
Make it weird.
Tell people that you love them.
You have to make it
and
weird.
Be weird about it. If you want to be weird about it, you can.
I think with some relationships, you don't have to say, I love you, and here's. I think with some folks, you can say, you know what I really appreciate about you? You know what I really like about you?
Yeah.
I don't think you have to make it. You can make it weird if you want to.
Yeah.
I don't think you have to make it weird.
You don't have to. Yeah, you can say, you know why I admire you?
But no, Amy is absolutely right. You're not on the hook for this, but you have the right, you have you have as much right as anybody to tell people what you like about them. And occasionally they'll respond with what they like about you, but that's not even the point.
I'll even go so far as to say this. Sounds a bit harsh, but there's no point in having friendships unless you tell them why you like them.
No point in even having a friendship.
Well, that's going a little too far. Values. You need to communicate the values. And in objectivism, and what Ayn Rand writes, and all the things that wonderful quote that you just talked about, it gives you a lot of great vocabulary. It's given me a lot of great vocabulary. I try my best. I try my best with telling people why I like them, admire them, or love them. And it's something that, I don't think it necessarily comes naturally in this culture. And I think in objectivism, it should come more naturally.
Well, for shy people like me, it can be hard, but we do our best to overcome. Oh, Sandy's on the Facebook side of things. Hello, Sandy. I hope you're in a warm place and not up in Traverse City. But if you are in Traverse City, I'm sure you're keeping warm. Well, in any event, we're getting more fun stuff in the chat here. Folks, thank you for joining us. Ran a little bit long. Thought Oh, we're doing a Ask Me Anything. It'll be a short episode.
I know,
But
it always
don't I
goes
always
over.
say 5 minutes and then we end up with a little bit more than 5
So
minutes?
just like values, the 5 minutes multiply.
Well, that is why we appreciate all of you out there, and you appreciate us. Some of you have been appreciating us through Patreon. So, if you've ever thought, what can I do to support these guys? Costs nothing to like the show. Costs nothing to share the show. Costs nothing, and this is an amazing deal, to subscribe on YouTube. So please do that. Consider doing that, and very much appreciated. And, Sandy says, in glorious sunny TC, Traverse City. So,
Oh,
yeah, Traverse City is always a wonderful place, even when they are completely snowbound. They know how to deal with snow up there.
yeah, they do.
And Sandy knows that too. Very cool. So that is why, I think where I left off, we wish, oh yeah, Patreon, please consider subscribing. And if you've got a few dollars in your pocket every month that you don't want to spend on more coffee, now you should get the coffee. But if you have a few dollars above and beyond the coffee, coffee's important. Please consider going to patreon.com/Robert Nasir. You'll find that link at the bottom of the page too at robertnasir.com and supporting. I really just want to give a shout out to those of you who do. Thank you. Thank you to those of you who continue to support the show through Patreon. It is very much appreciated and gives us the oomph to keep going. But whether or not you do that, we do wish you all of the success that you so richly deserve. Whether you are part of our objectivist Ayn Rand fan audience or not, you are virtuous, good people. You wouldn't listen to us talk about these things for as long as we do if you were not. And that is why, on top of everything else, and especially given that it is February, we wish you love.